Multi-tools continue to fascinate me, both for their utility, their functionality that they give you throughout your daily activities, and also for their intrinsic enjoyment, the collectability of them. The engineering that's put into MTs still fascinates me. Welcome, dudes. Nutnfancy tabletop review, Gerber Flik, blackened version. Probably some fans out there on Gerber MTs, specifically this model perhaps. Let me tell you straight up, I like delivering bad news early in my review. I'm not a big fan of the Gerber Flik. In fact, to be honest with you, I have a very hard time connecting on a lot of different levels with Gerber MTs. I just do. If you look back at my reviews, it's kind of always been that way, hasn't it? I reviewed the Gerber 600 August 2008. I wasn't a fan of that. You know, I did, actually I gave a fairly positive review in December 2008 on the Gerber clutch. And that's actually a pretty good light duty MT. This is an MDMT, and that's the category it places itself in because of its weight. Okay, and we're going to go down the talking points, Nutnfancy style, as quickly and expeditiously as I can, and I'm going to make the case of why this is a miss for me. Okay, and you can make your own judgments. I mean, maybe the things I'll tell you will connect and influence your buying decisions when you go out and buy an MT. Maybe not. Maybe you disagree completely. Understand, we're always respectful with each other in the Nutnfancy project if we see things differently. And as long as you can make a logical presentation and base your likes or dislikes logically, I'm all ears, you know, and that's how I learn and continue to learn and progress, not just in MTs, but all kinds of gear. Let's get going. This is the Gerber Flik Model 22-01638. Also known as model G01638 in Gerber nomenclature. This is kind of the militarized version in black oxide, full stainless steel, 8.8 ounces though. To me, that's a little bit surprising, jumping on into multi-tool category and POU. It surprises me. Looking at this, I thought it would be lighter than it is, but it's not. With the sheath, which I'll talk about later in the talking points, it's a 10-ounce loadout. Solidly placing it in the MD-MT, medium-duty multi-tool category. That is a very important consideration, guys, because as such, it has other competition in the same category. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go reference my multi-tool continuum video. And I talk about the philosophy as a reviewer, me, Nutnfancy, how I see MTs, how I review them ever since I came out with a continuum vid. Because Blast, the Leatherman Blast is going to be a competitor, the Leatherman Wave is going to be a competitor weight, maybe other versions of, you know, I'm a big fan of the Leatherman Charge Wave series. They're just outstanding. For all the reasons I've said before, we will make a few comparisons as the video goes because it's very appropriate, because it drives to why I can't connect to the Gerber Flik, why it doesn't, I don't know, do it for me, just doesn't. So, POU, not going to spend a lot of time on this because I have so many multi-tool reviews out there. I speak a lot to that philosophy. Every day in your life, you should probably have some sort of MT on your person. Either light duty, if you want more capability, go up in the continuum, maybe scoring an MDMT like this, you know, 8-ish ounces, 10 with full carry. I think that's a little bit hefty myself. I would go with a light duty multi-tool myself. My favorite remains a Leatherman Juice S2. Great capabilities. The question we're going to ask ourselves is, by upgrading in this particular purchase to a Gerber Flik, do we get substantially improved capabilities with this particular choice? Maybe over the other MTs I said. You know, you're a law enforcement officer, cop, paramedic, civilian that needs those tools, you know, a lineman, a farmer, a rancher of any type. An MT should probably be on your person. Depends on how much weight you want to carry though, and what your other loadout system is. So that's the first talking point. We may make reference to that as we go along. Materials. Gerber is not really forthcoming on the steel. You know, we're more concerned about the knife blade steel. We'll get into that here in a second, the tool review. Overall, just stainless steel. Oh, and by the way, in case you forget, it's marked right there in the MT. Okay, so that's kind of cool, kind of special. One nice thing about the Gerber Flik is it has pivot points that you can take apart, at least on the non-plier side. This is the plier side, this is your tool side, and you can see they have a mini Torx bits there, which is very refreshing to see. I would like to see all multi-tools be user serviceable. Here, by way of reference, on a negative way, is the Leatherman Charge AL. They went to those pretty much don't mess with me, locking pivot points, and that sucks. You might find something that can grasp those and undo them. I like being able to take the tool apart if I need to. If I want to Duracoat it, it should be my option. If I want to later on make my own tool sets to put in there, I should be able to do it without creating just a huge project for myself. So if you get the properly sized mini Torx bit, like this one right here, put in there. That's very important. If it's undersized, you're going to strip it out, and you got to push down hard. You can actually rotate that pivot point on the Gerber Flik and take it apart. That's a plus. It's a plus. I like it. I wish Leatherman did that on all of their series. I know why they don't, though, because they don't want guys taking their MTs apart, ruining them. The next thing you know, Leatherman gets a baggie of parts sent back to them, complaining about how their MT fell apart. I understand it. I like it, though. That brings us to tool review. On the Gerber Flik, let me lay the foundation for tool review by saying this, and it's very important. The whole tool is built around this. Rapidly deploying pliers. Okay, going back to what I said philosophically speaking, I guess I should say, in multi-tool continuum, it just depends what the most important tool is for you as a user. Is it the pliers? If so, maybe the Gerber Flik and maybe some other Gerber MTs will be attractive to you, or other rapidly deploying plier MTs. The reason that's important is because everything else in the Gerber Flik is concessionary to that capability. Because that plier head takes up so much internal room within the MDMT. See that? So we have to make some big compromises with the other tool capabilities of it because of that. So ask yourself, is that really important to me? If it is, great. That's your most important tool. Enough said. Okay, how about the pliers themselves? I think they're stubby and not long enough. Consider this. There is a fishing model of the Flik. If I'm not mistaken, it's going to be G000, that's 4 zeros, 70. The Flik fish. It has long, elegant shaped fishing head pliers, which I think are an improvement over these little stubby ones. Consider it. Got to get a drink. Excuse me. Okay, let's bring in the Leatherman here. Leatherman Wave. Very standard representation of the Leatherman plier right there. See that? Longer reach, more finer, I don't know how to say that. Just a longer reach and thinner so I can reach things better. I like that. On the upside, the cutting head on the Gerber Flik is interesting. See how it has a flush cutting capability there? You don't know what I'm talking about? Look on that side. So we could flush cut a nail or some wire there. Notice that in the Leatherman pliers, they're mid-set and they kind of cross over each other. See that? Where these are kind of pinch cutters at the Gerber Flik has. Okay? Notice, by the way, the black finish. That's out of the box. It came that way. I know. Black oxide sometimes is applied unevenly. We could say that about a lot of different multi-tools. This is probably the worst example I've seen of it. Out of the box, it came like that. Very splotchy, at least on the plier head. I don't know, maybe it's the type of steel. Here's another consideration on the plier heads while we're here. This is kind of getting to the negative part of why I have a hard time connecting with it. Let's look at the Leatherman. Look at the solidness of this plier head. Demonstrated in other videos. Again, this is the Leatherman Wave. We could roll any Leatherman in here, the Blast, the Charge series. You're going to see this. It's just a tight, set of pliers. There's no looseness there. There's no play. Gerber Flik. Now, why is that? Because you have chosen an MT that has a rapidly deploying plier capability, at least with this model. And I think, again, it's concessionary and it's going to result in play. I do not like this. Okay, I said that in the Gerber 600 review. about how that intrinsic value, how it connects to the user, and it seems very solid in nature, your multi-tool. I don't feel that way with the Gerber Flik. The plier head and how it works is a main reason why. Serrated jaws here, we talked about the cutter. Once deployed, if you can get past the looseness of the plier head, they grasp tightly. I cut some wire with it, not extensively, works fine. Okay, those are the pliers. Good thing on a Gerber Flik. They do have exterior reachable tools, so you don't have to open up the multi-tool, which makes sense because, again, what takes up the interior? The pliers. Okay, let's start with this. There's your main blade. Remember in the Gerber 600 multi-tool review, I kind of criticized that it did not lock with a snick. I still see that problem here with the Flik. Okay, by way of reference, let's get that Leatherman wave out, deploying the main blade. Hear that? Solid lockup, just like I said in the other video. You don't have that. That's pride of ownership thing, the intrinsic, is it good, is it bad? I don't know. It's important to me. It just is. It just makes me connect to my MT. I know, it's ridiculous. Look at the sweep on that blade. That is a perfectly sized and shaped multi-tool blade, in my opinion. It has a nice big finger groove, big enough to deploy readily. We don't have that with the Gerber Flik. It's a very narrow deployment slot. If you're wearing gloves, good luck. You're going to have a hard time getting to it. You kind of need a fingernail or jamming your skin in there. And then we get to the Wharncliffe blade. Not a fan of these unless it's a special purpose you're using it for. There's no sweep at all to the blade. It has a very high wear point on it. Okay, I'll roll some video in of when I was doing some food preparation with this MT, confirming what I already knew, is that without sweep, that tip just wears, heavily. Same thing I've said about other Wharncliffe blade choices. I don't dig it. Additionally, I don't like the grind of the blade. It's very steep. It's not full flat ground. It starts about mid-spine, comes down. It's a very poor slicing blade, in my experience. Is that super duper important? I don't know. What are you doing with your blade? Probably daily tasks, just like slicing that apple up, right? The Leatherman Wave, Charge series, heck, the Blast and Fuse for that matter, their blades cut and slice so much better in a daily utility task like that. Okay, don't dig it. The steel is unknown to us. It's going to be that softer Gerber steel. So this is a huge miss for me, guys. I got to tell you, the Wharncliffe blade like that, the grind of it, everything I just said, I don't dig it. Here's an upside. Remember, I'm going to tell you the good. I'm going to tell you the bad. You decide for yourself. I do like this. This is a rescue cutting alligator type serrated blade. This is better, okay? The grind isn't as important because this is not our main utility blade. This is kind of, for me, a rescue cutter and a rope and line cutter primarily. But we still have that narrow deployment slot, don't we? So if you're wearing gloves, good luck. And I'm going to tell this here, this is a cluttered MT. See, it's got your locking buttons on the side. It has the plier deploying buttons right here. The plier retraction buttons is probably what I should call those on the side. You have buttons everywhere. It's an inelegant design is what I'm trying to say. Okay, and then, by the way, your locking button is right here where your deployment is on your knife. I think these two things, I don't know. Inelegant's a good word for it. It's just not design elegance. But the serrated blade, I like that. That's cool. Okay, here comes you guys that are fans. Here's a good thing. Fisker design scissors on the Gerber Flik are excellent. And they are superior to the Leathermans. Okay, they're bigger. They have a bigger bite. The Leatherman scissors, at least on these MDMTs, the Charge, Wave series, are little tiny ones. They are excellent. I'm not going to break them out and spend airtime. These are excellent scissors, though, and this is a big plus on the Flik. Okay, so keeping it real, that's a big plus. And there again is how you're going to retract your tool set back here, and then you have a deployment, kind of a button for the scissors. Is that easy to get to? No, it's not. It buries in the handle, matching the contours perfectly. I kind of need fingernail for it. Again, if you're wearing gloves, this is going to be a hard multi-tool to deploy and use. I think, here's a saw. Thicker, I will open it up, this one up. Let me get to, here we go. the Waves saw. Look at the difference in thicknesses. Okay, which one's better, which one's worse? I don't know. For me, I like the thinner saw. Okay, I can still notch with it. I can do double passes if I'm doing a wilderness trap or something. I just like it, and I think it's going to require less effort to cut with as well. But at least it does have a saw. If you go with that fishing model of the Flik, you will give that up and instead get a file. And then we go into comparison against the Leathermans. I have to do this. Now, guys say, whoa, that's not a fair comparison. You know, different price points. No, screw that. Totally fair comparison because they're in the same weight category. Okay, notice with our Leatherman, the Charge and the Waves, we get the file, both diamond and metal file. You know, we get the serrated rescue cutter. Okay, we get the main blade. We have more tools than we'll get in the Flik. Okay, so you need to decide if that's, worth it. I'm running out of airtime, so let's go. Okay, notice and this is because of habit, I'm trying to pick these tools up. You can't do it. You actually have to go through another step with the Gerber Flik in order to access those. You're going to use your your locking lever or locking button like that to bring them up and see how they raise up a little bit, and then you got to go digging. Okay? And since I fished this out first, I'm just going to talk about that. This is their can opener. Okay, ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Where's Mr. Leatherman? Yes, I gotta compare. Okay, my favorite can opener of all time, of course, I've said this on camera, Victorinox. Okay, that one right there. This is in a Pioneer model, Victorinox blade. Here's the Leatherman's, by way of contrast. It's just tiny. Remember, I said it's a concessionary tool set because they don't have the room, because those pliers in the channel of the interior of the MT take up so much space. This is what you're going to be stuck with. Yes, I tried it. Does it open a can? Yeah. With some patience it does, but it's really ridiculous. The Leatherman's is superior. The Victorinox's in their MTs and in their Swiss Army knives, superior. I do not like that can opener. I detest it, actually. Sorry. And then here we go with a two-dimensional Phillips driver. And that, I hope that's the one you need, because that's the one you're stuck with. Again, if we reference the Wave, you have a bit driver, okay? And I guess Charge, Wave, same thing as far as capabilities. So you can, and yeah, it's a two-dimensional bit driver, swappable, and they sell all kinds of different bit sets that you can have. You can pretty much adapt it to whatever you want. The reach on the Flik is very minimal. Okay, it's even less than the Charge and Wave series, which I have criticized in the past. That's kind of the downside of having removable bits in this particular MT. Okay, so that's that. And let me see, I think that's all on that side. That's it. You have two little tools on that side. Okay, then we flip the multi-tool over. We have to use the locking button to raise them. Flat bladed, and there's your cap lifter and a flat bladed driver. Little tiny one. Again, they have to be small to fit in there. Okay, then we have a smaller flat bladed driver. Okay, and then we have our lanyard ring right there that I have deployed. And that's it. You just saw the tool review on the Gerber Flik. Okay? Yeah, but I like those rapidly deploying pliers. Okay, I hope so, because that's what the whole thing is designed around. And I don't want to make this a Leatherman review. I don't, but I have to show you, by way of reference, the capabilities. There's your scissors in there. You know, we have a very large, long reach, flat bladed driver in this MDMT. This is, again, the Wave. And then we have the mini screwdriver that also has a Phillips for eyeglasses. Where's that in this? Doesn't have it. Okay, and the bit driver, that's a huge plus. And no, I don't have problems with a two-dimensional bit. They work great in my experience. 3D is better, but better nothing. More capability, less capability. Okay, so that's a tool review. How about access and comfort? I talked about the inelegance with the buttons. That is an issue with me as a reviewer. As a user of MT, I think it's not a very comfortable multi-tool to hold. Notice the sharp edges on the side. Sharp shoulders. Okay, you love those pliers, awesome. But how much torque you're going to provide with them, you know, it's not a horrible thing, but with all the buttons and sharp edges, it's not ergonomic. Okay, to keep it real, There's the Leatherman Wave. It is ergonomic, rounded sides when you use the pliers. In the closed portion, not so much. Not with the Wave series, and I'll review this separately sometime. Sharp edges as well. Okay, so let's say I'm deploying my rescue cutter on the Leatherman Wave. Yeah, I got sharp edges there too. And those would be the same issues you would have with a Gerber Flik. Okay, sharp edges. So not ergonomic, kind of a miss. And by the way, if you upgrade to a Charge, TTI, or AL, this one's wearing that cool clip they provide, at least with the AL and TTI versions. They have rounded scales, which are much more ergonomic for all the tools you'll use. Okay, something to think about. Access, I kind of showed that in tool review, right? How it's tough to get to the tools. You have to go through an extra step to get to them. Don't dig it. I just don't. How's the carry case on the Gerber Flik? It is an improvement. When I did my Gerber 600 review back in August 2008, I criticized the carry case of that particular MT because it did not have the open bottom. Well, Gerber changed. They now have the open bottom carry case, so you can deploy the multi-tool and put it in the sheath, and it works just fine. And it's MOLLE capable, which is a huge improvement. So I actually like the sheath. Yes, it's Velcro. You know, fastened, not a huge deal. I'd prefer a blackened button. That's okay. You can usually magic marker or Sharpie that lettering out for you soldiers dudes. I think the sheath is actually pretty good, and it's pretty lightweight. Doesn't add a lot of weight. I love the MOLLE capability of it. And my all-time favorites are those Leathermans that I showed you in the Super Tool 300 review. Variations. The Flik Fish would be my favorite one. I talked about that. Quality and feel. I think I've kind of already discussed this throughout the review, but let me just say it does not imbue, I'm trying to search for the right word because I want to be fair to it. It doesn't imbue to me, I don't know, likability. It just, I don't know, there's something about it that I just don't dig. And it's a personal thing, I know. And you guys that have the Gerber Flik and you absolutely love it, hey, rock on, more power to you. But when I compare this MT against, let's use the Leatherman Blast. Look how clean this is. Okay, you know, do you see any exterior buttons? Do you see any, you know, complexity that doesn't need to be there? No, I don't. I could bring a Victorinox, you know, Super Tool or Spirit out, and it'd be the same story. The Flik reminds me of a plane that has a lot of external stores on it. You know, bombs and crap hanging off the wings, and therefore it's not aerodynamic. You know, the locking buttons, the plier buttons, you know, it wiggles, it rattles. Everything on the Leathermans, on the Victorinoxes, it's tight. You know, there's nothing. You know, could you fault it in some way? Yeah, sure. But there's nothing. There's no rattling. To me, that just inspires confidence. And maybe that's the word I was searching for, is does this inspire confidence? To me, as an MT user, sorry, it does not. It does not. And that'll take us to competitive options. Guys will say, well, you got to keep in mind that the Gerber Flik is a good buy. And I will agree. It's $51 around there, $50 ballpark for the Gerber Flik. That is a good deal. But keep in mind, and this is something some guys get so confused on, when you talk about value, you're not just talking about price. Okay, you're talking about capability, about quality, about second type of cool, dudes. You know, and you have to ask yourself, does this provide everything that I want? Or would I be better off kicking in, I don't know, another, what is it, 11 bucks? I'm looking at, yes, $61 for a Wave, for a Leatherman Wave. What are we talking, 10 bucks extra? Dude, that's chump change for a multi-tool you'll have for the rest of your life. Please, please. I mean, it's just to even make the argument, well, it's $10 cheaper. So, I mean, for a multi-tool you'll keep and hand down to your children, you know, make it, spring for the extra 10, dude. That's a lunch, you know, if that. You know, this is a superior design to this. Again, that's for me and what I deem as important. You know, I don't need rapidly deploying pliers. Maybe you do. And in that case, you're willing to take the concession of everything else in the Gerber design. Rock on, dude. Not me. I'd rather have, you know, a very nice swept blade. You know, granted in the Wave it's 420HC steel. If I upgraded to an AL or TTI, I'd get the 154 CM version like that, or S30V in the TTI. And I love how Leatherman gives you that option. That's cool. Just take your pick. There's, for me, the extra $10 or $15 that a wave would cost. Remember, these are same size, and same weight as well. And it's just a cleaner and more elegant design. So this, to me, is a better value than the Gerber Flik. Not recommended by me for everything I just told you. Gerber Flik, I think it's a well-made multi-tool for what it is. It does have some idiosyncrasies like the looseness of the plier head, the little tiny Lilliputian tool sets on this side right here. If you can dig that, then maybe you'll dig the Gerber Flik. Sorry guys, you tune in for me to keep it real, and I'm keeping it real with you. Nutnfancy, Gerber Flik multi-tool review. See ya!